great event. This is such a great area, Autumn Rose Farm, and I thank the Dublin GOP for helping organize this event. Is Bill Jacob here somewhere? Bill, thank you very much for helping organize this event.
Read in the paper the other day about the fact that Sears reportedly has come to Columbus, thinking about whether maybe they might move their business here. Now, I can't tell you that Sears would move out of Illinois, because believe me, up in Illinois they're going to give them everything they want, okay? But I can tell you this. Isn't it great that we have companies that are now coming into Ohio to think about bringing jobs here, rather than companies leaving Ohio? And I've got to say that my friend Bill Batchelder, Tom Niehaus, Mike Duffy, the other members of the legislature that were here, folks, we were $8 billion in the hole. The largest deficit that Ohio had ever faced in its history. We're talking Ohio. When I came here in 1970 to go to Ohio State, it was the promised land. It was inconceivable to me that the state of Ohio had run so far behind in its bills that it was billions of dollars in the hole, going to Washington with a tin cup asking people to bail us out. Wow. That's something that I would expect from people in California. And look, you know the easy way? Raise taxes. Okay, that's the easy way. Do you understand that, in California they keep raising taxes, and every day there's another series of business people that are leaving. You look at the Rhode Island and some of the states that Bill mentioned. You see, if you want to start a business, are you going to start a business where the government is going to pound you? If you want to start a small business, are you going to go to a place, a city that's on fiscal emergency, not knowing what's going to happen? You know the reason we have trouble in this country today is because no business people are willing to invest because they don't feel good about the future. So we face this $8 billion deficit. And what we knew was not philosophy or republicanism or conservatism or anything else. We knew one simple fact, that if we raised taxes in Ohio, we were going to make this state less competitive and drive more businesses out. And folks, over the last 10 years, Ohio has lost 600,000 jobs, and in the last 4 years, we lost 400,000 jobs. And you know what? Only Michigan, that is in a depression because of the auto industry, and California, because they're filled with a bunch of wackadoodles, they're the only two states in America. Think about this. They're the only two states in America that lost more jobs than our precious Buckeye State. Think about that. How is it possible that Ohio got itself into a position where we were getting cleaned out by everybody else? How did we ever lose our way? And so we said it's time for a new day and a new way of doing things. And not based on taking polls, because I tell you something. The people that take polls don't know how to lead. The people that know how to lead don't pay attention to them. You know why? Because leadership is walking a lonely road. And who were some of our great leaders? Well, of course, we know about Reagan. Okay, we know about, Abraham Lincoln. We know about Martin Luther King. And we look across the channel and we see Winston Churchill. Never popular. Because they saw what was coming and they acted to stop it. And I remember just recently the sainted Ronald Reagan. I remember when he was just a man and not a saint. In 1982, nobody would appear with him. In Ohio, our statewide candidates kept away from him, which was great because I got to spend a lot more time with him because I like the people who are changing. So, the members of our legislature and our leaders had frankly become fed up with doing nothing. 1/3 of our young people going to our great universities, they leave. Why do they leave? Nothing exciting for them to do. Where are they going? Oh, they're going to Austin, Texas. Or they're going down to the Triangle down in North Carolina. They're going to places where they think they can find their hopes and dreams. And when your young people leave, the future's not bright. And when your most successful entrepreneurs leave, and I like to say if you want to meet a successful, charitable giving, business creating Ohio, when you go to Naples, Florida. That's not where we want them to be. We want them to be here. And why? Because people that know how to create jobs are precious. People who know how to bring change. You know, right up until the day they put him in the ground, Stephen Jobs was being criticized. Now we look at him today and say he was on the order of Edison. What he did to transform the world. So we looked at this and said, no way can we do business as usual. And we set out on a big reform agenda, not a cutting agenda. Oh yes, some things ought to be cut out of all of our family budgets. Not ice cream for me, but some things should be cut. But we were in a reform mode, and let me give you one of them. Mom and dad get sick. They get old. We were not allowing them to stay in their own home with a little bit of help. We shipped them off to a nursing home. Because politics was the order of the day. We changed it. We said if mom and dad can qualify for a nursing home, but they can stay in their own home, where they're going to be healthier and happier and more secure, we're all letting them do it. For 30 years. And these people took a beating from the law. Oh, they put it commercial on TV saying, you know, Kasich wants to unplug grandma. It was so outrageous they had to pull it off. And we stood up for mom and dad. You know, some governors and some legislators would say if you have a poor kid and you need to save money, cut out his dental care. We didn't do that. We said there's 6% of Ohioans who are sick, some very sick. And they find most of their care in the emergency room. We all know you can't get healthy just visiting an emergency room. So we've now provided a mechanism where they can be healthier, more secure, less frightened, and we all save money. You see, it's reform, providing a better product at a lower price. You know, in the universities, you know what the cost of tuition is today. You know, for 134 years in this state, if you wanted to build a building, you had to hire major contractors to do every single piece of the building. That drove up the cost 20, 30%. For 134 years, this law stood. Doesn't stand anymore. Now it's a single prime contractor. Gordon Gee says he will save 20 to 30% of the cost of building that cancer center up there at Ohio State. That serves the public and our students and our Can you imagine having a child go to a school where the results are terrible? Could you imagine putting your flesh and blood into a school system which performs at the bottom 5% in this state year after year after year? You ought to see the movie Waiting for Superman. When moms and dads say, why does my kid have to go there? I don't have any money. And because of the leadership of the legislature, and most particularly the Speaker, We've now extended 60,000 vouchers to moms and dads to get their kids out of the failed hospital. Let me tell you something else that doesn't really represent some raw meat kind of thing. But you know, we were sticking 12,000 Ohioans in the state prison, non-violent offenders in the state prison, and sitting them for less than a year, and sitting them next to somebody who was a rapist, a murderer, or a big-time drug dealer, and we keep them in there for 6 months, and then we release them and think we did a great job. Our prisons were exploding, violence was growing. But you know what we said? You can give people a second chance. People make mistakes. And we're going to confine them in a setting where the public is safe, but we give them an opportunity to come back and be productive citizens again. And you know where that comes from? That comes from faith. That comes from the sense that from the fact that many people can be redeemed. And we don't want to create something worse in an individual. And so we showed compassion. And in the course, we're going to reduce the costs of our state prisons. We're going to lower the recidivism rate. And in the last 2 months, violence in our state prisons, because we cracked down on those who are violent in prison, violence has been down in the last 2 months by 50%. We also decided that our number one goal, it's not the statute, it's not the laws, you know what it is? It's creating an environment in Ohio where people want to start their businesses and where business people want to expand them. You know, I grew up in a little blue-collar town outside of Pittsburgh, and my dad carried mail on his back for 29 years. And my mother was in and out of the workforce, you know, just trying to earn my mother wouldn't take a bus. She'd rather walk a mile and save what it cost back then, maybe a quarter? Probably less than a quarter, because she wanted her kids to have something. And my parents lived a frugal life. But my mother and father always told me one thing, and it is, well, a lot of things, but one thing they always told me is, Johnny, when a person has a job, they're happy. The family's happy. The kids are healthier. Johnny, it's what it's all about. And in McKees Rocks, when the wind blew the wrong way, people found themselves without a job. Think about what it's like to have to go home one night and tell your spouse and your children, I lost my job today. Do you realize there's some here that have had to do that? And there's some here that that's never happened to, but think about yourself in their shoes, telling their children, I lost my job. Kids, Christmas is not going to be quite as good this year. Be patient. You see, I learned as a kid, it's all about work. And it's about faith, and it's about family. That's what it's about. And so we have spent our time trying to figure out how to fix Ohio, to make it a job-producing state, not a job-losing state. And we took our Department of Development that moves at the speed of the statute. Now, I saw a race between a statute and a glacier. You know what that means? That means a businessman calls the government and they can't return a phone call. They can't respond. They can't get out of their own way. So working with these gentlemen and the members of the legislature, we privatized our Department of Development. And now we're going to move the liquor profits that have been in the state since the 1920s into this entity, so we will have the resources we need to create jobs. And let me tell you this, I got some news for you. These statistics are old. They only go through August. We have engaged in 154 different projects working with businesses to make them stronger. American Greetings, which was thinking about leaving Cleveland, stayed. Diebold, which was a big competitor of NCR that left Dayton and blew a hole in that city, They are now building their world headquarters in Canton and saving the Akron-Canton Airport. Wendy's. In 1977, I met Dave Thomas, and I never dreamt that, 40 years later approximately, I'm involved in getting Wendy's to come back from Georgia and get back to its home in Dublin where it belongs. And when Bob Evans was thinking about going to Texas, we said, no way, no how. And Omnicare just moved to Ohio from Kentucky, and the people in Kentucky were complaining that the governor of Ohio is trying to steal all of our jobs. It's about time. As a direct result of what we've done, we've created over 10,000 new jobs in Ohio. That's 10,000 families, 10,000 families. And we've been able to retain over 20,000 jobs. And you know what the payroll is when you put all that together for Ohio? $1.7 billion to our good. And we have $1.5 billion in new capital investment in our state to make us stronger and more viable as a state that can provide the help that families want. That's in 8 months, folks. That is a pretty darn good record. Issue 2. Well, yeah, it's about fairness. I mean, seriously, you think about a single mom with a couple kids. She has very expensive health care, if she has it at all. She has no pension. You know, she has no pension. She may have a 401k. And she's paying not only for what it costs to take care of her own family, but she's paying for somebody that doesn't want to pay 15% of their health care or 10% of their guaranteed pension. Who's going to stand up for that single mom with the kids? You going to let somebody else, or are we going to stand up for that lady? Huh? On the middle class. It is. It's an attack by people who say the middle class ought to keep paying not just for their own benefits, but for somebody else that doesn't want to pay. The time has come to level the playing field. And here's the thing, folks, look. And Tom Niehaus said it best. I come from a union household. I come from a union town. You know what I learned back in the Keys Rocks? We all pitch in. Everybody pitch. We don't say you pitch in and I'm not. We say everybody pitches in, and we honor the work of everybody who's out there plugging away. But we got a lot of people, a lot of families making a lot of sacrifices in the state. Over 9% unemployment still. A lot of people have made sacrifices. We're just asking people to pay a little bit more. But let me tell you about something else. If you cannot control your personnel costs, you will find yourself in a circumstance where you keep raising taxes. And at some point, people say, I can't afford anymore. And there are cities in this state that are going on fiscal emergency. Do you remember when Cleveland was melting down before George Voinovich went in and straightened it out? You see, this is about the strength of our communities. It is about the ability to have a job-creating environment. And it is about our kids. I look over here at this little boy, and he's already on his, he's already tweeting, or I don't know what he's doing with somebody over here. Okay? You see, I don't want him to leave Ohio. I don't want him in Austin, Texas, or down in the Triangle, or down in Alabama, or Florida. I want him in Ohio. And I'll tell you why Ohio matters. Isn't there something special about us? It's common sense, fear of God, respect your neighbors, hard work. You see, it's one of the things we can sell as we recruit people around the country. We're going to be announcing a company coming in from California. We're not giving them a dime. They believe that our environment is such where they can get great workers, where the situation is stable, where they can be hopeful about the future. See, issue 2 is about a lot of things. It's not about not letting nurses have enough help. I mean, come on, folks. Who would believe that kind of stuff, okay? And let me tell you, for school teachers, boy, for school teachers, I want to pay them more, okay? But I want to pay the ones that perform and work the hardest the most amount of money, because they're the ones that are dedicating to lifting our children. I want to pay them more. The profession of education. We abandon that. Where are our kids going to go? Where are we going to go? But a policy that lets the best and the brightest be let go because they were the last ones hired, so therefore they should be the first ones hired? Where do they do that? Where do they even come up with something like that? Seniority matters, but that's not all that matters. It's about your skills and your dedication to your kids. That's what it's about. And I give a lot of compliments to the teachers that have stood up, and because it does take courage. Mike Duffy talked about it. It does. Do you know why mayors and school board members won't stand up for issue 2? Because they're afraid that if they do, that they will be defeated in the next election. That's fear. And you know, well, Franklin Roosevelt said it best, there's nothing to fear but fear itself. It's a test for everybody. It's a test for people to stand up and say we all got to be part of this. It's a test for people to stand up and say I want our communities to be healthy. It's a test for all of us to say that forget the politics of the past, let's do what's right. Let's create an environment where families can be healthier, where children can be pulled out of poverty, because we're doing it in Ohio. It is happening right now. So folks, we don't take this on out of some anger, like I see so much out of the other side. We take this out of the commitment to our families and our children. Now, we've got about a month to go. You've got to get out and pass the word. I believe this will make Ohio healthier. I think it will help us to attract more jobs and to help companies that are here expand more jobs. Because if we lead in Ohio, we can help the rest of the country find its way. Now folks, all of us together, and you go to the water cooler, and you go to the coffee pot, and you're standing around, let people know how we're doing, and ask them to stand with us to build a stronger and stronger Ohio. It is the right thing to do, and will be looked upon by the entire rest of the country as a model as to how we can get our bearings again in a confused world. I want to thank my partners in the legislature. They've been tough. They will continue to be tough because we're going to put Ohioans and Ohio families and children first. Thank you all.